How are we doing, boys and girls? Manthis here. Welcome back to another video. So today I wanted to give you a little bit of information about all of the different minis. I have now finally completed my collection of minis in Warcraft Rumble. I have access to every single mini and I'm slowly now working through leveling them all up. But for today's video, what I wanted to do is just talk for like 30 seconds to a minute about each mini, as lots of people are going to not have much experience on what they even do. I've been lucky enough to play with some of them for a little while now, so I thought this could be useful for you. Now, we actually did this on stream. I did this on stream, and so I've taken the footage and I'm going to chop it up a little bit and make it sort of more YouTube friendly and more coherent. But I will try and leave some timestamps down below about each mini and when I talk about them. So if you're trying to put your decks together or you want to know a little bit more about a specific mini, check the description down below. There should be some timestamps for you to use. But enjoy. I hope you like this. Let me know what you would like to see for Warcraft Rumble going forward. Now we have an official launch date of November the 3rd. I suspect that there'll be a lot more people showing some interest in this, but let me know what you think. So I'll leave it there for today, boys and girls. Make sure you hit the like on this video and subscribe if you're new around here, and enjoy the video. Let's test my knowledge quickly. So we have the Harvest Golem. He's predominantly he's a tank by nature. He's a tank by nature. He's actually one of the tankiest in the game due to the fact that when he dies, he comes back to life with 50% health again. So he's actually really good. And I've got a trait with him that spawns 4 angry chickens when he dies as well. Yeah, after his first death, he shocks back to life. So he's really quite cool. Blizzard, it's just an AoE. Blizzard does Blizzard things. This one, I can't remember the name of this one. The Safe Pilot. This is in a lot of the marketing material. You know, pink head, big pink head gnome. This one's quite cool. You get to place it anywhere on the map and she flies in and dive bombs and does a bit of AoE, and then she has like a laser rifle that she pew-pews with. She's quite slow at attacking, but she does like big chunks of damage, so she's quite cool. And the fact you can place it anywhere on the map is handy. The Griffin Rider. Griffin Rider is a flying mob that she throws her hammer and does like average damage. Flying units are quite powerful because there's lots of melee minis that just physically can't attack flying minis, so flying minis are quite good. She's also cheap at only 2 gold. We've got the Alliance troops. I don't know, one thing I don't know is the name of half of these. The Footmen. The Footmen, you spawn 4 of them. They're armored. They can withstand quite a beating, but they're expensive. They're 5 gold. These are really quite expensive, but they're not a bad one. They're pretty tanky. They can take a lot of damage. Obviously, their weakness is going to be the fact that there's 4 of them. Any AoE is going to cut through them really fast. The Worgen is quite cool because is he stealth by nature? Yeah, he pops in stealth. The Worgen pops in. You can place him anywhere you want on the map. He's stealth. He does quite a lot of damage. He's pretty good. The Hunter, what's he actually called? Mountaineer. The Mountaineer has his bear. His bear tanks for him and he stands behind. Hunter does hunter things and Pet does pet things. Pretty cool. I like him. He's too expensive though. He's way too expensive. At 6 gold, he's way too expensive to justify putting in almost any build. If he was 5, he'd probably see more play. I guess he's probably quite good in PvP. If you're getting a gold advantage, he might work quite well in PvP. But generally, he's just too expensive. Maybe needs to have some health knocked off and maybe a gold reduced, if I was to say anything. This is Arcane Blast. Arcane Blast is weird because you can place it like multiple times. It looks cheap at 1 gold, but its gold cost increases the more time you use it, up to 3, I think. But its damage also increases, meaning that you can take out a big cluster of stuff with Arcane Blast. Arcane Blast is alright, but I'm not a big fan of the spells, if I'm honest. Healing spell heals a reasonable amount. what do they call it? Holy Nova. It's just very expensive. If you think about the fact that you've already spent gold to place a mini, then three additional gold to heal that mini back up by, I don't know how much it heals by. Healing of 661. It doesn't even particularly heal that much. Obviously, it's splash healing, meaning you could heal a lot if you've got a big swarm running in, maybe, but it's still quite hard to justify. The ravens, they're not called ravens, are they? They're called vultures. These guys are quite cool. Once again, they're flying and they're cheap. This is one of the really cool things. They're flying and they're cheap, and every time they kill something, they spawn more vultures in. So you start with only 2, but you can end up with a massive great big swarm of these things if they quickly cut through. You can see the chickens here. They carve through the chickens and then more of them spawn. These can get a little bit out of control, which against the right opponent, these can be quite strong. And because they're so cheap, you can easily squeeze them in your deck somewhere. Raptors are kind of like Arcane Blast. They start out nice and cheap, but you only get to place 1. You then spend another 2 gold to place 2 more Raptors, and then you can spend 3 gold to place 3 more Raptors. So in total, you can actually spend 6 gold to place 6 Raptors, which is not too bad. You know, your mileage may vary with this. The problem you have is that it's going to be hard. You have to spend all 6 gold to cycle it through your deck, which is a bit of a problem. You get caught with them being just overly expensive, which is why I don't tend to use them too much. If the first one and the second, then the second 2 get countered, your last 3 are probably also going to get countered, meaning you're probably not going to use them very much either. The wolf, or what's he called? Prowler. His charge is quite good. He stays out of range of melee and then charges in and has a big first attack, which makes him quite good. Touch expensive for what he does, though. He could do with probably being 2 gold. If he was 2 gold, you'd probably use him more. I don't know what his traits are, though. Some of the minis start off terrible, but they snowball to be super overpowered when you get a trait or 2 behind them. Obviously, I'm not far enough into the game, and I'm not willing to spend money on the game to find out. I'm quite sure a lot of the minis that start off bad end up actually really quite good when you have their traits as well. These 3 little bug dudes are just annoying, the spiderlings. I think these cause poison as well. They do elemental damage. Elemental damage cuts through armored mobs really good. So these are actually quite good for taking out tanks. If a tank is coming your way, a strong armored golem or something like that, these 3 little spiders are quite cheap. You can often get a nice positive trade with these. At 2 gold, you could quite easily counter like a 5 gold mini coming your way, so that would give you like a +3 sort of value on that trade, which is quite good. They are squishy though, because they're only little bugs. They're easily taken out by another mini coming behind the tank. So yeah, right place, right time use of these is quite good, but they don't see much play. Gaining Frost will also slow them down. They do twice as much damage with their poison, or they explode on death, poisoning nearby enemies. The Frostbite slow would probably work quite well, because if you can slow the tank down, it means anything that's following the tank might then start overtaking the tank and start putting themselves in damage. That's probably the one I would go through out of the 3. Did you spend any money on the game? 20 bucks. 20 bucks is all I spent on the game. That was it. Murlocs. Who doesn't love Murlocs? Everybody loves Murlocs. The fact they throw spears means they can attack both ground and air units, which makes them quite powerful. 2 Murlocs for 2 gold, though. situational at best. They're super squishy. They can easily be taken down, but because they can often get... They're good because they often get at least a hit off before they die. You very rarely never do any damage with the Tide Hunters. They pretty much always do some damage. It's just the very second they get hit, they just will get one shot by nearly everything. So, yeah, they're alright. We have the Brute. The Gnoll Brute does a swinging AoE ability. Nothing too special about this dude, to be honest. I tend to think he's a little bit expensive for what he does as well. A tough tank? I don't even think he is that tanky. 3,000 health at level 10. Okay, for level 10, it's probably not too bad. And the fact that he does AoE damage means that it can, you know, it can counteract things like chickens, or if you've got like skeletons coming towards you or something. Maybe he's pretty mid tier as far as tanks go. Polymorph. Polymorph is a real good, one of the only spells that can really get you out of a pickle. If there's something that you really can't counter. Or something, if your enemy has something that very, very effectively counters your build, you can polymorph them, take them out of action, and then hopefully burn them down before they pop back out. Polymorph is probably a utility spell that will see a lot of use in PvP, but not so much in PvE, unless, you know, something's just weird. So unrealistic, poly breaks on damage. Lasts twice as long, but sheep regenerate health quite as very quickly. Is an interesting one. I've not looked at the traits for this before. Killing the sheep damages nearby enemies, so it makes it explode. Once the one sheep becomes golden, killing it grants you a coin. Oh, that's quite good. That's going to help reduce the value of your polymorph. Okay. That would then mean that with that trait, you effectively only are spending 2 gold on polymorph. Let's say you counter a big tank coming your way, you could easily make that a net positive trade. Not bad. Polymorph will get a lot of love in one of the better spells. Let's put it that way. Chickens. Box of chickens. What more do you need to say? Really cool. Can swarm big tanky stuff. Individually don't do a lot of damage, but it's, you know, damage in numbers. Can carve through things. Really good against single target mobs because they just get carved up before they have chance to kill too many chickens. Obviously really susceptible to any AoE damage. One swipe of an AoE damage takes out all your chickens, and then it's a sad time. The traits, one of the traits for the chickens is they run as a box. Yeah, here we go, walking crate. Instead of them running as like all separate chickens, they run in their box and have a lot more health. And then when the box gets broken, then they all break out. So that's probably the trait I'll pick up on my chickens when I level those up. I don't really know what Fury does. Because there's a trait called Fury and there's also a trait called Bloodlust, which I would assume do basically the same thing. I don't know if Fury just makes them faster. Not sure. A nearby beast ally can consume a chicken to heal themselves. Sacrifice, that's quite funny. But chickens are quite cool. Pyromancer, really cool mob. Really cool. Very, very powerful. One that, for its gold cost, nearly always does some good damage, without question. Your Pyromancer, I have gone with Confligurate as the trait I picked up for the Pyromancer. This doubles the area of effect the blasts do. All 3 of these are good options. Basically a fire mage, right? Very, very solid. Pew-pews from the back, can take out single mobs pretty well, can take out aerial mobs. Just a generally good. Have this walking slowly behind your tank, let the tank take some of the first initial damage, and the Pyromancer will just burn through anything that's behind. Quite good mob. The fact that she walks slowly is actually a bonus, because you don't want her to end up in front. You want her to stay behind and just, like, you know, do mage things, right? Pew pew from behind. Set everybody alight. And the elemental damage means it also cuts through armored mobs really well. So it cuts through the tanks very nicely. Generally all round good mini. The fire hammer, really fast attack speed. This is one of the key components. Very similar to the pyromancer. 1 gold more expensive though. That's the reason I don't use it. But its attack speed is much faster, and it can throw its things that little bit further. So there's kind of a kiss curse. Two very similar minis here. I don't know what the traits are for this though. Deal 50% more damage to flying enemies. Fury builds up to 40% higher. Level up upon reaching full fury. Okay, so if you can combo these two, that would be absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so fury means after every attack, they attack faster, I guess, then. I'm guessing that's what fury does. Where did we get to then? Oh, the Drake. Drake's cool. Drake's very cool. Flying means that a lot of melee things just can't touch it. And its fire-breathing AoE cuts through a lot of stuff. It's got a really wide angle on its fire breath as well, which is quite cool. I don't know what the traits are on this one. Mother Drake periodically summons a whelp egg. Oh, that could be quite cool, actually. Perch on top of a nearby tower, staying there to defend it. Oh, wow, okay. This is often one of the problems. One of the problems with the Drake is it accidentally gets ahead of everything else and then gets pew-pewed down. If you could have it just sit on top of a tower, defending the tower, that could be very handy. Damaging enemies also burns them, engulfing them in flame. It basically puts a dot on them as well. Not bad. Drake's a little expensive, though. A little expensive. You want to try and synergize this with a leader that drops the cost. What's his name? What's his name? There is one that does exactly that. I think this dude. General. I think this dude. No. Hang on. There's a leader that gives you... Oh, it might be Rend. Yeah, other flying troops cost 1 less when Rend is in play. You kind of like would want to synergize the Drake with Rend, because four gold is a touch expensive, but 3 is like good value. Core Hounds I've not played with because I've only just unlocked the Core Hounds, but they're 2 tanky mobs that you have to kill both of them in quick succession for them to stay dead. Much like Molten Core in WoW. You got to kill all of the Core Hounds or none of the Core Hounds. You can't just kill one of the Core Hounds. If you kill one and it takes too long, it will revive its buddy. I would imagine this is quite cool. They've locked the Core Hounds behind... it's one of the more difficult minis to get because you can't get this from the store at the beginning. I don't know if that was a bug or whether that was intended, but they put it as a guild reward for the Core Hounds. I've only just got this, so I've not actually played it, but I've come against it a fair few times. But they're quite cool. Tanky. I would suspect the problem with them, though, is that they're 6 gold. I think they're going to just be really expensive. You can probably do better for less. They got good health, and the fact there's 2 of them, yeah, these guys are pretty good. I wonder what the traits end up being. On resurrection, do damage to nearby enemies. That's very situational because that's going to mean that you have like if they're both killed at the same time, resurrection is not going to work. Deal 50% additional damage when near friendly towers and meeting stones. That's probably the best one. Resurrection range is unlimited. Oh, that would be cool. Sometimes you can split them down 2 different lanes. Then that would mean if one dies and the other hasn't, because they're going different ways, fighting different enemies, if one of them dies, the other one can res them from the other side of the map. That could actually be really powerful. That could make it very hard to kill core hounds. That's going to be OP. That's going to be pretty OP in PvP. If you can send them two ways, it's going to be really hard to kill them both at the same time and keep them dead. That's going to be a big one. What have we got here? Living Bomb. Another one I don't particularly like too much. It's super expensive. If somebody has done, like you see here, put 10 gold worth of stuff all clustered and you Living Bomb it, you'll get some value out of it. But that's also only if it kills everything in one go. Which it often does, though. The damage of this is silly. But this is, you know, you can... A smart player... Once they realize you have if you realize somebody else has got Living Bomb, you just don't do this. You just don't cluster everything together. You spread things out a little bit further. Its radius is not that great. I would imagine one of the traits is to increase its radius, right? Affected enemies are dazed, splash damage, inflicts Living Bomb. Also burn enemies within 10. Okay, so it's got you can't increase its blast radius. But, or maybe it is. Yeah, you would probably want this. This is another good example of a spell that's not great when you first get it, but you put a trait on it. If you put blast radius on it, you might be able to catch more stuff and get more value out of it. But yeah, 6 gold, just expensive. The Molten Giant. This will be a favourite when the game goes live, I reckon, because he's just got so much health. This dude is an absolute tank. 7,500 health at level 11. Nearly twice as much health as nearly any tank at this sort of range. Armoured, meaning that he's weak against elemental damage, but against regular damage, he just stands there and takes it. He also does great amount of damage because of his siege damage trait. He just cuts through. He's slow as all hell, though. He lumbers really slowly. It's going to take him forever to get to the tower, but if he gets there and can start hitting it, it's his tower. 6 gold, though. Really strong, tanky, but crazy expensive. Don't forget you can only have 10 gold at any one point, meaning that if you drop him down, even at a full gold bar, you've only got 4 gold to support him with. You want to kind of take a tower, drop him at the back, generate some more gold, and then put your DPS ahead and wait for him to catch up. Hard mini to use effectively, but he'll be a fan favourite when the game goes live just because he's solid as a rock, quite literally. Your Flame Walker hits from the other side of the map. The biggest advantage of this dude is he does AoE damage, and it also goes miles, right? This often means that he's killed things before they even get close to. This, in this little demonstration, the Necromancer is another really strong mini, but the Flame Walker is the direct counter to it. You'll see this in the beginning of the game when it goes live for everybody. The Necromancer is really strong, but Flame Walker just counters it perfectly. So for PvP, you'll see this combo coming against each other a lot. What are the Flame Walker's traits? Damaging enemies dazes them. That's going to be really good because it means it will get at least 2 shots off most of the time. Damaging enemy burns them, probably less important than heat stroke. Successive attacks increase flame wave distance, resets on movement. Oh, okay. So if he stands still and hits something, his next attack is going to go even further. And if that thing still hasn't died, it's going to go even further still. Okay, so a mob that has ridiculously long range on his ability to start with gets even longer if he's able to just plant his feet and start killing things. That could be quite cool. Who are you? The Miner. Oh yeah, the fact that you can place him anywhere on the map. This is what's known as an unbound mini, meaning you can position them wherever you want on the map. You don't have to play them at a tower. the fact that he mines predominantly means that if you're coming up, if a golem is about to steal a nice juicy mining node, if your enemy golem's about to steal it, you can snipe it with your miner quite often. Yeah, the Unbound trait, you'll see there's a bunch of them that have the Unbound trait. This means you can place them anywhere you want on the map at any time, whenever you play them. I actually run with 2 Unbound minis in my main team for that exact reason, because their Unbound minis are very powerful. We have Mr. Fire Elemental, not one that I've played with very much, but I've come up against it. A tanky mob, feels a bit expensive for what he actually does. Resistant to elemental damage, specialized in cleaving through armored enemies. Okay, the fact that he does elemental damage and is resistant is going to make him quite good. He's just going to be annoying to kill. That's going to be the main thing with this dude. He's going to be annoying to kill. He doesn't have that much health, though, for a tank. He's got probably a little bit above average, but nothing special. I would imagine it's his traits that makes him good. This is probably another one that's, you know, C tier to begin with, but gets better when you put some traits on him. Periodically damages nearby enemies. Meh. On death, summon a pool of lava, damaging enemies within. That could be good. That's quite an annoying one to play against, because anything that then walks through that pool of lava, namely, you know, if you use him as a tank, the Fire Elemental's a tank, he's going to go into battle first. He's probably going to be the first one to die, but then when he does die and everybody, all of the other enemies walk over him, he's probably going to take out... He's probably going to do more damage after death than he is before, which is interesting. Taking elemental damage increases the damage dealt by 10%, stacks up to 30. So he can do up to 30% more damage. The Fire Elemental isn't really a dude that's meant to do damage. He's just meant to be annoying and get in the way. So I would say Molten Core is definitely the best one for the Fire Elemental. But a mid-tier mini either way. Your whelps are quite cool. Once again, you can place these anywhere on the map. They don't do anything when you place them, though. The eggs have to be broken before they hatch and do anything. But the fact that these are really, really good against melee mobs, because melee is going to be like, ooh, an egg, bosh. And then the melee mobs can do nothing against the flying whelps once they hatch. So these are just sometimes really annoying. They are a touch expensive though. If these were 2, if it only spawned 2 whelp eggs, but was only 2 gold, these would be super powerful. 3 eggs at 3 gold, they're just a touch expensive, considering they don't do anything until they're attacked, which is often a problem. But they can be quite defensive. You put them on a tower. If an AoE takes, starts attacking the tower or something, they're good defensive ones for the tower. Trait-wise, what do these have trait-wise? When one egg hatches, the others immediately hatch. That could be quite good, because there's 3 of them. 1 of them opens, and then you get 3 quite quickly. Damages nearby enemies when hatching, and eggs gain taunt. I guess there's some interesting use for that, distracting mobs with them. But there are better things that you can use to distract. The miner is a good one for distracting, for example, not because he taunts, but just because he can take aggro first. Yeah, these... they're not too bad. They're not too bad. Smoke Bomb. It's an odd one, right? It's an odd one. You've got to spend a gold to give any mini stealth. Very situational. You might see use for this quite frequently in the PvE side of the game. PvP, maybe not so much. Unless you really build your entire deck around clustering a bunch of mobs up, and then just as they're about to get attacked, stealthing all of them. Maybe. Yeah, Hog Rider, he's not called Hog Rider, is he? He's called Warsong Raider. Warsong Raider's quite cool. He's quite cool. He zooms in, does massive amount of damage to towers. And because he's fast, you can often play him behind and he'll catch up with others, which is pretty good. If you play him first, you have the problem that he runs off too far ahead and gets himself killed. So you've got to be careful about how and when you play him. But look at the amount of damage he does to towers. He's a siege mob. So he's pretty much designed to take towers. That's his #1 goal. Does all right when, you know, fighting normally, but it's a tank. It's a tower taking mini. That's the main goal for this, and hence why damaging a tower reduces its damage dealt by 50% for 3 seconds. This means that if it runs in, it hits the tower, then the tower's going to do even less damage. And if the tower's focused on the Warsong Raider, it means it's going to get another hit or two off, and it nearly always takes a tower. Pretty cool. Fast as well, very fast. Shaman, we spoke about the Shaman a little bit already. Because it's a combo unit, it both heals and does damage. It's quite cool. It's got a little bit of utility to it there. Can put a chain heal on some minis ahead of it, but will also do chain lightning as well. And I've literally just bought lightning mastery for it, so chain lightning bounces 3 times, which is cool. Nice. Goblin Sappers, these are funny. These dudes are funny. These are another tower taking mini. They do just what you see here. They set their bomb alight, and they're little suicide bombers. They run up and they go boom. Ridiculous amounts of damage to towers. So if you send in a tank first, that's going to take aggro from the tower. These guys run behind and just go boom. These can wreck people's day. These can really wreck people's day because they do it fast as well. This is the thing, they're speedy. You drop them down, people aren't expecting it, they just run in, boom, the tower's dead, and they're like, shit, now what do we do? I picked up the trait for these extra boom, which means it drops 3 of them instead of 2, often meaning that, well, it's 50% more damage if they all land. Also, it means if you come up against like a single target that can sometimes kill, because these get one shots. These get if they get hit, they're dead. But if it just gives them a much greater chance of hitting the tower. They're very cool. I like the Goblin Zappers a lot. Ogre Mage, pretty solid mini. Going to see a lot of use because it can do ranged splash damage to both ground and aerial targets. This is what makes the Ogre Mage really good. There's nearly nothing that can come at it that it can't hit and can't do a bunch of damage to. The only downside of the Ogre Mage is he is expensive. 5 gold. He's quite squishy if he gets hit. He's expensive. There is a better option, in my opinion, than the Ogre Mage. 4 less gold as well. Where is he? The Necromancer. Out of the 2, the Necromancer I feel is better. It's cheaper. It does ranged ability. It doesn't do quite as much damage, but it does do ranged ability. And the Necromancer is always summoning skeletons. So out of the 2, I would say the Necromancer is the better one. But this dude is still pretty good. His traits. What do the traits? Is it going to be that he gets better when his traits? Oh, okay. If you can get Avarice. Gain Bloodlust when bloodlusting an enemy. I suppose I should talk about the Bloodlust side of it for the Ogre Mage. The Ogre Mage will give Bloodlust to nearby minis as well. Bloodlust works the same as it does in WoW. It's a haste boost. They run faster, they move faster, they shoot faster, they do more damage. If you can, if you can get Bloodlust stacking, that will work quite well. So he's more, I guess the Ogre Mage is more support-oriented, where the Necromancer is just about sort of sustaining and doing lots of damage from the back. But, 5 is still expensive in my opinion. Should be 4. Should be 4. Maybe drop his damage a little bit, make him 4. Would make him more worthwhile. The Flying Bat Rider. Bat Rider is quite cool because of the splash damage. Being a flying mini means there's a lot of stuff in the game that just can't attack it. Flying minis are a nuisance. Yeah, you'll see a lot of flying spec decks, I think, because the flying minis are just quite overpowered. The Dark Spear Troll, not bad. Fast attack. Fast attack can hit anything in its path, both flying and ground. Only one of him, pretty squishy, sort of mid-tier, I'd say, for the Dark Spear Troll. Probably another one where if he's with a couple of traits under his belt, gets better. Regenerates 20% health every second. That would counteract the fact that he has no health. On kill, increase attack and movement speed by 10%, stacking up to 50. I don't think you actually want that one, because you don't want his movement speed to be any faster. You want him to stay behind. You don't want him overtaking your tanks. You want him to stay behind. That's a bit of a bait one. That's going to be very situational. Poison could be quite cool, though. If he comes up against a strong tank, poison works really well. Big Bad Voodoo is probably the best one for the Dark Spear Troll, though, I'd say. Warsong Grunts. I'm not particularly a fan of these fellas, to be honest. They're massively expensive. I don't understand why these guys are so expensive. They're just they're slow. This squad of fighters will speed up furiously slashing at frightened foes. Yeah, I guess the more times they hit things, but they're just they do have a reasonable amount of health, but I don't know. I'm not too much of a fan of these. Once again, they're expensive and they don't really have anything super special about them. Traits is probably what's going to. When a grunt dies, the other one gains bloodlust. Remain at the deploy location until entering combat. Nearby beast allies deal 30% additional damage. Okay, this is where command is the most powerful one here then. Because it's going to, if you put them in a deck with a couple of other beasts, then they're going to buff the damage, which gives them that extra little bit of value that they need because they're 5 gold. They needed to do something special to justify the high price. Without that trait, though, they need command before they get good, I reckon. Zap. Is it called Zap? No, of course it's not. Chain Lightning. Chain Lightning is quite cool. It's cheap. It does average damage and can clean up a bunch of things coming your way. You'll see this one used an awful lot just because it's a spell and it's cheap. I don't mind Chain Lightning at all. It was called Zap in Clash Royale. That's probably why I used Zap. On deploy, stun the enemies for a second. Dramatically increase the jump distance between the targets. Can be cast a second time. Well, reverberation makes it super valuable then. To be able to cast it a second time, that makes it very worthwhile. But the Chain Lightning is also, you know, I'm not a big fan of spells generally. Execute, trash tier. Far too situational, far too expensive. When you play it, it takes off half of the mini's health. It's never going to kill anything, particularly. At 3, it's situational. It should be cheaper. It should be only 2 gold, I think. Yeah. Not a fan of Execute, unfortunately. If you could... What of its traits? Bloodlust allies within the spell area for 10 seconds. If an enemy is killed, the next horde mini costs 1. I see that's where you get your value back then, right? This is where you get your value back. Your next horde mini is going to cost 1 less. So you put this in a horde deck. It's a horde spell. You put it in a horde deck. It's going to mean that it in essence only costs 2. Yeah, Killing Spree is the talent you're going to need to make it worthwhile. By itself at 3 gold, it's too expensive. Knocking enemies away from the cast location, you could be clever with this. You could be clever with this to knock something out of the way. But yeah, it's too situational, and it's also a spell I'm not a big fan of Execute. Necromancer, though. Necromancer's cool. Continuously summoning skeletons to fight for it. Has it so that often if a single target mob is killing your skeletons, by the time it's killed your 2 skeletons, the Necromancer is ready to summon more of them. So it can be just really frustrating to kill. And at 4 gold, he's priced right, I think. He's quite cool. I like the Necromancer a lot. I've got Jeweled Skulls on, which is a trait that instead of... the skeletons are usually basic melee skeletons. This changes them into skeleton mages, which means they do range damage. This makes him yet even more powerful. The ranged skeletal mages have often done a whole bunch of damage to something before something even gets close to killing them, which is... This makes it even more stronger against melee units. It's like ridiculous. On kill, summon a skeleton. On death, summon 5 skeletons. Just a really cool little mini. Fantastic little mini. I like the Necromancer a lot. Banshee. Banshee's a fun one. Banshee's a fun one. It zooms in and it just straight up yoinks a mob. Now, I think by default... yeah. Just straight up flies in and possesses something, and it fights for you permanently. At 4 gold, if you take a... Like, the value you can get from this is outrageous, right? So, like, say, for example, this Golem, which is a 5 or 6 gold mini. You zoom in, it costs you 4, but you have taken 4... You've taken the cost of the Golem from them, and you have gained the value of the Golem on top of that. The value proposition of the Banshee is outrageous. This will be used nearly all the time in PvP decks because this is such a... When it works, it's beautiful. This one mini can win games for you really, really easily. The traits on this, I've picked up one, which means that the possessed target then also gains Bloodlust for 10 seconds. So not only do you take something, you make it angry, and then it turns around and kills everything in its path. Wonderful little mini. Like this one an awful lot. Also has the advantage of that, by my calculation, doesn't really matter too much about the level. You don't particularly need to worry about leveling this one up because it possesses something and it's yours. Yoink. It doesn't really matter about the level, so you don't have to worry about actually leveling this up too much. Obviously, you still want to take it from uncommon to rare to epic to get access to more traits, but as it stands, really quite cool. Will fully heal the possessed target. Possessed targets detonate on death, damaging nearby enemies. Yeah, this mini just gets better every time. Whichever one of these you pick, Will of the Necropolis is actually probably the best one, to be honest, because it means if you've already damaged a tank and then you send in your Banshee, you might possess it, but then it might instantly die anyway. But if you can fully heal a possessed target, in this situation that it showcases here, stealing a Golem, let's say you'd half killed this Golem anyway, then you send your Banshee in, it heals it back up to full, turns it round, sends it back. It's just it's a great little mini. Very, very good. Abomination, too expensive. Cool, but too expensive. Big, chunky, tanky. Can pull in a ranged mob. This is where it does quite well, and then it does cleave damage. So it's quite cool, but it's just really expensive. And it's hard to get good value out of it. I'm sure there are situations where you can get some good stuff from it. I've got the Noxious Presence trait on it, meaning that it's going to poison things around it. It's going to stand there and take a bunch of damage for a while. So if it's doing this AoE poison at the same time, it often takes out a lot of stuff sort of passively, which is quite cool. He is expensive at 6 gold, though. It's super difficult to justify the top-end value minis. That some of them are just too expensive. I try to keep my decks below 3 gold average. My main deck, for example, is a 3.1 average cost. And it means that you can cycle through your deck quite quickly. As soon as you start putting, and the only big ticket one I've got in here is the Huntress, but just because she's mental OP, and that's 5. Like, as soon as you start putting like 6 gold minis in your deck, it gets really difficult, really quickly to get good value from them, and you end up starving yourself of gold elsewhere, which is the problem. The meat wagon, underrated. I think this one's quite underrated because it can stand out of distance, right? Like a trebuchet, like a catapult, it can stand outside the range of towers. People often see this coming and are going to think, oh, it's all right, the tower will take it down. Nope, this thing's going to sit at the back and is going to wreck your day. He's quite cool. He's quite cool in the meat wagon. I've not used him much. I haven't integrated him into many decks yet, but he is quite cool. What are his traits? Every other attack summons a skeleton instead of dealing damage. Increases bombardment and range by +2. Oh my lord. And gains fury. Greased gears and fillet trebuchet are probably the best ones. Summoning skeletons probably doesn't make all that much value because those skeletons are just going to walk straight into the tower damage in most cases. All that might do though is summoning the skeletons in front of it might act as a small shield so that it can get 1 or 2 more throws off. Meat wagon's quite cool though. He's quite good. The ghoul, annoying son of a bitch, because he can once he kills something, if he's not in combat, he will eat from the corpses and regenerate health. Really annoying to take this dude out, because if he takes out a couple of your mobs, he can regenerate back to nearly full health, and then you've got to start all over again. Annoying to fight against. Got a good enough health, and with the health regen to not die, and only 2 gold is actually pretty good. Pretty good value, the ghoul. Nice little mini, that one. The gargoyle, flying, armored tank. This dude is crazy good. He is such an annoying. You got to remember that there are only certain things that can hit aerial mobs, and even the ones that can hit the aerial mobs, because he's armored, he can withstand a beating. He's really good at like taking aggro from towers, because most regular pew towers are they're just going to dink off his armor. Gargoyle's really quite cool. He's 4 gold though, so he's he's only just really worthwhile at that sort of price. I would imagine. What are his traits? Increasing movement speed by 33%. That's really good. One of his drawbacks is he's slow AF. If you can get him going in there much faster, he's pretty good for sure. On death, summon a statue with taunt, lasts until it's destroyed. I've never seen that in action, so I don't know how well that works. But is interesting. Incoming damage from flying minis is reduced by 50%. Oh, that's also quite cool, because quite often you would counter a flying mini with another flying mini. And if then you can take 50% less damage from other flying minis, it makes him more annoying to deal with. That's kind of the game of this one, to just be a frustration, to be a pain in the ass to take out. Not super tanky, not super fast, but just annoying to counter. That's the thing. You would counter this sort of dude probably with like a Blood Mage, for example, because it does elemental damage. Elemental damage ignores the fact that he's armored. But like a spearman, for example, what's his name? The Dark Spear Troll, for example, is going to do nothing against him. His spears are just going to chink, 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 chink. They're not going to do any damage. The pumpkin thrower dude, very much similar to this dude. The meat wagon has the ability to attack from range, does splash damage as well. It's elemental splash damage. His range is actually pretty far on it, meaning he tends to stay out of trouble quite a lot. Only 2 gold. Good price, I think, on this. And the poison as well. He does poison damage. So if he hits somebody once and then dies, there's going to be a ticking damage on them all the same. So he's quite good. What are his traits? On death, summon a pumpkin. When it's touched, it poisons nearby enemies. Double bonus. Never ever going to not do damage to something. On kill, poison enemies near the target. Once again, making the poison more effective. Increasing the range by 1 and doubling the splash area. I reckon this would mean that he could actually stand nearly out of the range of towers, I would guess, as well. He's already almost there anyway. So actually all of those are quite good for him. Skellies. These are unbound, meaning you can place them wherever you want. This is a key. You can do what's known as backdooring, meaning you place them behind the line that's coming towards you, and they attack from the back, and often can go unnoticed if you've got a tank, like, you know, holding aggro. Two gold here countered 6 gold pretty much. Really good positive trade if you can play them. Often you can use them because there's 3 of them. You can use them to distract a tower for a couple of seconds, to distract them from 3. It's often worth to trade 2 gold to distract 3 hits from a tower if you've got like a big damage mob attacking that tower. Skeletons are quite cool. Cheat death just means that for a second or 2 after placing it, the minis can't die however much damage they take. Once again, very situational and quite expensive for what it does. If you can weave it in to something somewhere, you might get some value out of it. But the reality is it's another spell. Like, the spells have limited uses to begin with. The affected minis also gain Bloodlust, but die when the effect ends. While the likelihood of cheat death is that they're going to die very soon after anyway. Affected minis are healed when dealing damage. Affected skeletons resurrect at your base when they die. This could work quite well because cheat death is an undead mini in the first place, or it's an undead spell. Building it into a skeleton heavy build, you could get some value out of it, assuming that it's a good defensive trait, I suppose. I mean, from the word go, it's a very defensive spell in the first place. A good defense is obviously the first part of a strong offense, but still 50-50. And then Skeleton Party. This is the expensive version of the other Skellies. Does the same thing, realistically, but summons mages and melee ones. Just, once again, slightly annoying to come against. What you can often counter the melee skeletons, but then not counter the ranged skeletons. Oh, it's actually 5 it drops down, isn't it? So similar to the mini skellies. Twice as expensive, but gives you a little bit more than twice as many. If you were going to put one of them in your deck, I would probably put the skeleton army rather than just the 2 regular skeletons. Traits on these fellas. 5-man summons a skeleton tank, a rogue, a priest, and 2 mages. Oh, that could be quite cool, actually. The fact that you could just drop down a 5-man army. That could actually be quite cool. Gain +1 level for each deploy after the first, maximum of 3 levels. You're not going to cycle through your deck that fast. It's 4... You'd have to build... You'd kind of have to build your whole deck around that. You'd have to have lots of other cheap minis to mean that you can cycle them quickly to get back to this, so that you can get +3 levels on it. The problem is, by the time you've done that, you could already be dead. Summon 5 skeleton mages who guard the deployed location. that has uses for sure as well. Pretty cool, pretty cool. And then I suppose the only ones I haven't spoken about are the ones that are in my deck right now, which are arguably my favourite minis, and hence why these are the ones I've leveled up to the max. We have the Quillboar. He is an unbound mini, meaning you can place him wherever you want. Often I will place him to distract a tower when my mob of minis is running up towards it. He doesn't have particularly a lot of health, but he attacks quite quick. He does reasonable damage, and you know, for as long as he stays alive, he's usually useful. The unbound nature of him is quite good. He deploys slow. He takes a second or two to burrow up out the ground by normal, so I put tunnel vision, which means he just does it faster. But I do think probably the Bramble Burst would have been a better one for me to choose, actually, in hindsight, because he would then do poison damage when he comes up. But Quillboar's quite cool. Unbound, pretty good. Harpies, one of the most broken OP minis in the entire game. 3 Harpies for 3 gold. They're flying. They do ridiculous damage. They attack really quickly. Look how quickly they carve through this big golem dude. That's a really tanky mob by default, and they just cut through. I also put infectious swipes, which means not only are they attacking through things super fast, they're also doing poison damage. If you can get these Harpies to touch the boss is dead in nearly every situation. If you can distract a tower and then the Harpies fly in and attack the tower, tower's dead, and they'll all just plow forward. The only problem with the Harpies is they move fast, so you have to like get a few things in front of them first and then play them behind, and they play catch up. But if you can master that, these dudes are like crazy powerful. My big Earth Elemental, he is another unbound one. So like the Quillboar, I run 2 unbound minis, so I can often use one of them to distract the tower, and then I use the second one to stand and hold aggro against anything that turns up to try and defend that tower, and then the rest of my minis just stroll up and take the tower. The Earth Elemental at 3 plus 2 is a total spend of 5, but I'm getting so much distraction and value out of the fact that I'm placing 2 minis. I can place them instantly on the map wherever I need them. For 5 gold, combining these 2 is like mega value. The trait I've put on this is Obsidian Shard as well, which means when the Earth Elemental finally dies, which it takes a while to do because it's got quite a lot of health to begin with, it then splits into 2. And it splits into 2 smaller elementals who both are tanky in their own right. So with this trait, it's one of the highest HP mobs in the game. It's pretty cool. The Stonehoof Tauren, if you've been running around in World of Warcraft recently, you'll have been able to collect this one. Lot of damage, charges in, just really strong, hard-hitting mini. Counters ranged mobs really well because of that charge. Ranged minis often get 1 or 2 hits on you before you even get to them. The Stonehoof Tauren can actually charge in and often take out a ranged mob before it even takes damage in any way, shape or form, so it's quite cool. I upgraded it with momentum, which means it then has 2 charges. It'll charge once and then it'll charge to something else. Really, really good for hitting a tower and then hitting that annoying ranged mob behind the tower. Saved my bacon many, many times. Really cool. Pretty tanky at the same time. 6,500 health at level 15 without strictly being a tank. It's just tank by the virtue of having a lot of health. Quite cool. Stabby boys. Bandits. Ridiculous value. 1 gold. A lot of people will ignore the bandits because they're like 1 gold. How good can they be? Crazy value. 2 bandits that stealth when you place them, so they are nearly always going to do damage against something. They stun when they hit, meaning often they don't take any damage before they've killed something. And I wombo comboed that even further by giving them poison. So even if they stun, do a bunch of damage, get killed, the poison often kills whatever they attacked first. These are like one of the most ridiculously OP minis in the game. At 1 gold, you can cycle through them really quickly. I often just place them on the map and forget about them. Place them on the map, let them run off, let them do their thing. And they always providing me value. Never do you place these and not get value out of them. They're really good. And the last one, which is one I've mentioned previously, the most overpowered mini in the entire game, is the Huntress. Ranged, fast, reasonable amount of health, throws the glaive and just carves through, can hit ranged, can hit flying mobs, can hit ground mobs. You can stack, the traits on her are also ridiculous. Darnassan Steel makes her glaive bounce even more times. Shadow Meld would be a crazy one as well, giving her stealth and ambush. Ambush means the first attack does more damage. Stealth is, you know, stealth. Elven Might is also very good. Deals 50% extra damage on that first initial hit. Everything about this mini is overpowered. The only thing that makes it hard to work around is the fact that at 5 gold it's expensive, but it's definitely worth the 5 gold. This mini alone wins games. Get this thing attacking a tower, get this thing attacking the boss, anything that they play to try and defend, the glaive's going to bounce and ricochet and do damage against. Crazy power. Love this mini. Very, very good. And that, boys and girls, is every single one of the base minis in the game. I know I haven't talked about the leaders. Maybe we'll talk about the leaders another time. But that's every single base mini. If I happen to cut this and turn it into a YouTube video, thank you all for watching. If you made it this far in the video, please remember to hit that like button and, of course, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.